Kurama was the nine-tailed beast, and by his own admission was the strongest of them all. To be frank, he really was. I mean, he had his entire being, from his personality and his power, sawed in half by Minato, and he was still strong enough to give any other tailed beast and their Jinchuriki a run for their money. I personally would have, though, at least if I were the Sage of Six Paths, I would have evenly divided all of their power, but I guess he just felt better stacking all their power into one beast and jipping the rest. Today, what I want to do is follow Kurama's story and then make one massive change, this change being during the Pain arc. If you recall, Naruto nearly lost control of the Nine Tails, and in doing so, Kurama began to manifest his true self and his tailed beast mode to escape the Chibaku Tensei. It's then that Minato normally shows up and puts the beast back in its cage, freeing Naruto from its grasp. But my question is, what if Minato hadn't had the presence of mind to put a failsafe in before he died? What if Minato and Kushina died before being able to put their chakra inside of him to teach him the prohibitions and reseal the beast? What if Kurama's hatred overwhelmed Naruto in this most critical moment and proved the village right? Well, that's what we plan to find out. Grab your popcorn, kick back in a comfy chair, let's watch and enjoy some Naruto what-ifs. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And do us a big favor and double check if you're still subscribed. YouTube has been unsubscribing people lately, and we want to make sure you're getting all our videos. Kurama first came into being when Hagoromo was nearing the end of his life. Funny enough, the idea to make Kurama as well as the other tailed beast was Asura's idea. In other words, Naruto is basically Kurama's dad. Yeah, Hagoromo made him with his own technique and the chakra he had absorbed, but it was Asura who first conceived Kurama in his mind. A match made in heaven, I suppose. Hagoromo would create the beasts and would tell them that no matter where in the world they were, they would always share a connection, which is present in the series and personified by their ability to hold counsel with each other. He told them that one day a child of prophecy would bring them all together. And as he was reaching the end of his life, Kurama, oh, look at his tiny little small little chubby face, I want to hug him. As he reached the end of his life, Kurama couldn't help but feel upset. The man he basically considered his father was dying. He had barely even come to know him. However, Hagoromo had one more gift for Kurama. Before his demise, the sage would send him out to the ancient lands that would one day become known as the Land of Fire. There in that land stood a massive temple that would become the home of our fluffy little large-tailed beast. Kurama was a force to be reckoned with, often seen as a force of nature by those around him, due to how he could just flip out on you and destroy everything on what appeared to others to be a whim. This is only ironic due to how he actually was formed out of the energies of nature himself, as the 10 tails is actually the end result of nature energy being absorbed by a god tree. The tailed beasts were not created by Hagoromo to destroy humanity. Why would he even think that? The guy who created Ninshu, the basic meaning being using your natural energies to grow closer to other people and love them. Why would a man such as that make 9 super weapons to destroy everyone with? No. The tailed beasts were meant to guard and protect mankind, but also they served as judges and defenders of the natural order. That is what Kurama did. Moving back to Kurama, our little fluffy bean is now living in a temple where he's embodying the forces and will of nature itself. And when people get out of hand, be it through war, conglomerating resources to oneself regardless of the needs of others, or any other thing, Kurama would wake up and would eradicate the people, giving them their just desserts. Kurama began to grow into a bigger, less cute, but still sort of adorable fluffy we know today, and he continued meting out justice to any who would misuse nature, and sparing those who lived more according to how the Sage of Six Paths did and wanted them to live. But things don't always stay fine like this. As many know, peace is an unnatural state for human beings, or so it's said, and no war was more dangerous or as long as the warring states period during the formation of the villages. Mankind had taken the hand chain of love that the sage called chakra and twisted it into a weapon as Indra Otsutsuki had taught them. They all began to fight. Little villages, big villages, clan against clan. There was no coordination, no order, just plain, unabating bloodshed, staining the very ground red with blood. You know, sometimes I wonder what Kurama and the other tailed beasts were doing during this time. I would assume that they'd try and stop this, but then again, How much can a single, well, 9 beasts do in the face of all of mankind? While Kurama and the others were powerful beyond comparison, they were not absolute. Even the tiny humans could harm them, kill them, seal them, and use them. This eventually led to the Gold and Silver brothers, both of whom were distantly related to the Sage of Six Paths, likely on Indra's side, and they'd appear to capture the tailed beast for their village. The personification of man's pride and ego. Yeah, our bud Kurama eats them whole. But what's this? Kurama, you say you need an antacid. Yeah, you gotta be careful with what you put in your gut, because the Gold and Silver brothers decided to turn the tables. The two began to devour the lining in Kurama's stomach in an attempt to sustain themselves and hopefully escape. Strange enough, eating a tailed beast's flesh normally leads to death, but not Ginkaku and Kinkaku. Those two somehow, instead of just flat out keeling over, take this power within the tailed beast and make it their own. So while we always assumed there were 2 Kuramas running around in the form of Naruto and Minato, we were technically wrong. There were 4, as the Gold and Silver brothers count as pseudo-Jinchurikis. 5 actually if we count Sora, though he's not canon, so I don't. The filler fatigue is real. The Gold and Silver bros pretend to be a tapeworm for a little while until Kurama's had enough and blows chunks everywhere. Man, imagine walking through the forest when that happened. How much sawdust do you think that'll take? They escape his belly, they failed to capture him, but they did manage to get a hold of his power. With that power, they ended up killing the second Hokage. They lived for a while, and it's actually unsure what happened to them in the end, but I know that they came back in the 4th Shinobi World War and got stuffed into those 2 jars with the insanely fun names to say. Truly, the war and the attempts to use him had left a negative impression on Kurama, as his personality really shifted, but he remained somewhat dormant, choosing to stay away from humans for a while, but his peace was short-lived as Hashirama's restored friendship with Madara. As he kept to himself, Madara appeared. Having left the village on bad terms, Madara sought the Nine Tails, eventually finding its temple just as the Gold and Silver brothers had. However, Kurama did not expect Madara's use of the Sharingan, and he immediately fell under his Genjutsu. This jutsu not only took control over him, forcing him to do what Madara wanted, but it preyed on his negative emotions to fill his power. A contract was made, and he immediately found himself pulled into Konoha when Madara summoned him. Outside, he was a raging monster, but inside of him, some part remained slightly conscious, only being filled with greater hatred. He could hardly stomach looking at Madara or Hashirama at the time. As a grand puppet between the 2 warring sons of Hagoromo incarnate, Kurama grew more and more displeased with humanity. He would eventually be coated in the blue shielding of the Susanoo. He felt it cover his skin, and at this point he felt like the sanctity of his body had been impugned upon. He felt like a toy, like a pet with which they could make him do tricks and dress up however they saw fit. Like the puppet Madara had made him, Kurama was forced to fight Hashirama's massive wood golem, and in turn found his body bloodied and bruised, battered under the founding Hokage's wooden avatar. He was knocked back and only freed from Madara's control when he was murdered by Hashirama. Kurama's rage was not slaked. The longer he was under Madara's control, the angrier and stronger he became. When he was finally released, his first thought was to kill them all. You don't just capture the spirit of nature itself and use it as a plaything and expect to come out of it with your life. He began attempting to eradicate the village, but he was met by Hashirama, who would seal him away into his own wife to stop the beast, but to further use his power. Kurama was confined, a living battery, and he wasn't the only one. Hashirama soon began searching for the other beasts, capturing them and selling them to the other villages like cattle, like objects. This caused a deep-seated hatred to form within the once proud and honorable fox, twisting him into a beast of pure hatred. For years, he had tried to manipulate his hosts into releasing him, threatening them, trying to make them hate others so bad that they would attempt to use the beast's power to escape. The seal was specifically designed this way. Kurama knew that if he fed them his power when they asked for it, the seal would slowly weaken all on its own. But this was a false hope. He would require a Jinchuriki of the most reckless sort to even close in on escaping, and most Jinchuriki never got the chance. They would either be too responsible or have it stripped if they weren't a good match. So Kurama really needed to try and take any shot he could. He was trying to manipulate his hosts to grow angry and hateful enough to snap and let it all out at once. This was no easy feat, as Mito Uzumaki, the Hokage's wife, had grown accustomed to ignoring Kurama entirely. Elsewhere, Shukaku was having similar issues, but his Jinchuriki was way too meek. This actually led to Shukaku respecting the man, not to say he wouldn't take the chance to escape if he could. Eventually though, Mito was growing old. Her generation was passing them by. Hashirama had died in the First Shinobi World War, something that he was truthfully responsible for, if only partially. In his own way, he was attempting to maintain balance through deterrence, but instead gave weapons to the other villages, which were ultimately used against him. This led to the first Hokage's death, and would also later lead to Tobirama's death, leaving the second Hokage's tenure both legendary and very brief. Hiruzen was in charge now. Oh, how Kurama wished he could have gotten into that man instead. As much as Hiruzen screwed up as a Hokage, it would be no surprise if he could also lose control of the Nine Tails, but then again, Kurama would also remind him that, while Hiruzen was a crappy Hokage, he was still, to his best knowledge, a good man. At least strong in his constitution. In the end, the next host was a young Uzumaki girl from Uzoshiogakure. On Mito's deathbed, the tailed beast was stripped and transferred to Kushina, leaving Mito to perish. To a point, Kurama was glad to see the old bag die. He had been confined in the cage made of her bones for years, but this was a bittersweet moment for him, as he was now stuck in an even younger and smaller human flesh bag. He decided the same strategy he had with Mito, but none of this made a difference. Kushina certainly had a temper, and he had hoped to prey on that with his own temptations. Sadly though, the girl found solace in her husband, the fourth Hokage, a title Kurama spat at. For years he laid in wait for the perfect moment to escape. He knew that it would be her undoing. The love she sheltered herself with would ultimately lead to her demise. After all, when a man and woman love each other very much, what comes next? That was why it was perfect for him to be sealed into a female. A female Jinchuriki could do one thing no male could ever do. They could get pregnant. And while there wasn't much he could do through most of the 9 months, the true chance came right there at the end. Birth. During the process of birth, the mother's chakra was too preoccupied with pushing out a baby and keeping it both happy and healthy. This was when he would attempt his escape. However, it seemed fate was against him, as the Hokage knew his plan all along and began to personally reinforce the seal himself. A process that felt as if every tail, every hand and foot, like even his abdomen, was being held down by a piercing spike. Kurama roared and pulled himself, trying to break through the chains. This was his only chance. He needed to get out, and he desperately attempted to. He began to lose hope, but for one moment the lucky stars smiled upon him, and a man appeared and threatened the family. This led to Kushina being taken and chained up like Kurama once was. The masked man began trying to pull the beast out, and Kurama felt a new sensation. Like every spike was being pulled, and like the chains were being removed. He would be pleased by this, but oddly he felt a new chain around his neck, not holding him down, but pulling him out. Even though Kurama wanted to escape, his will still wasn't his own, and even if he didn't want to leave the girl, there'd be no choice for him. He was removed from Kushina, leaving her weakened and in a fragile state. Kurama knew the feeling of having no will for so long that he knew he needed to make a break for it as soon as possible. He was pulled out, and the moment his feet hit ground, he was fighting, his nine tails swirling around him as if he were throwing up a defensive dome, trying to defend himself from attack. The Hokage was sure to appear here next, and if the chain dragging Kurama out was any indication, his supposed hero was really about to use him for evil. This is when he saw it. The Sharingan. Within his head he shouted out, begging not to be used like that again, but before he could even finish his sentence, he was back in the founding days of Konoha, taunted by the faces of Madara and Hashirama Senju. In his anger he began to tear up the village, punishment for what they had done to him. He was surrounded by shinobi and each tried to fight or contain him, but like an angry child kicking at an anthill, Kurama continued to devastate the village. It was then that the man who had controlled him was defeated by the fourth Hokage. He felt himself return to his senses, and knowing that he had little time left, he decided that he'd prepare a tailed beast ball just to rip the village apart before making his escape. But Minato wasn't called the yellow flash of the leaf for nothing. Like a mosquito in the summertime, Kurama felt a light touch. Suddenly, he was gone. Before he could launch his tailed beast ball and eradicate the village, he was already gone. He was by a crushed shack, many miles from Konoha. The tailed beast ball detonated, but didn't even graze its intended target. There, Kurama turned around and found himself facing off against the Hokage and his wife. He was surrounded with a barrier, ensuring he couldn't escape, and that none could get in to interfere. Seeing the child laid out upon the altar, and seeing the hand signs that Minato was weaving, he knows exactly what Minato's doing. In a moment, he refuses to be sealed again. Allowing this to happen to himself again would be a mark against his pride, but that will be magnified many times fold if he's sealed into the weakest a human could possibly be. He attempts to kill the baby with his claws, which reach out to stab him, but instead they tear through Minato and Kushina. They stop the claw with superhuman strength to save their baby. Minato then finishes weaving the spell. Kurama at this point knows he's screwed. He angrily shouts out as he's sealed away. He begins to reconsider it, looking on the bright side. He'll be sealed into a baby, which is so weak he might just break out naturally. Furthermore, even if he can't break out, he's at least sealed into a child. Children are easily manipulated, and you'll hardly find a single creature in the world as emotional as a young human. But suddenly, he must curse the Hokage once more, as he has seen through every plan Kurama would make. Using his seal, he shears Kurama into two beings, removing half of his energy. But what Minato didn't know is that he had also shorn away part of Kurama's personality, and the half of his personality that was most docile and agreeable, he had sealed into himself. He may have weakened Kurama, but he had also made the issue of creating a new beast, one that possessed only Kurama's hatred and disdain. Any limitations Kurama's heart had placed on himself were now removed totally. Minato had created the true demon fox, and he had sealed it into his own infant son. The yin half of Kurama is sealed into Minato. Now, before we continue the path of the other Kurama, let's follow this one. Yin is sealed into Minato, who is then devoured by the Shinigami. Together, they're stuck within. Yin Kurama double sealed. Minato sealed into the Shinigami's belly, and Yin Kurama sealed into Minato's. There wasn't much fighting that could have been done either. On the contrary, though, this gave Minato and Kurama a lot of time to talk, given that they didn't have anybody else to speak with. I mean, in about 10 years after they were sealed, they'd get a pair of severed hands to talk to, but that was hardly stimulating. So Minato and Kurama had about 17 years to talk things through before they'd be resummoned from within the Shinigami. And, you know, when you're stuck with someone that long and neither you have anything to do with talk, maybe fight some, you grow sort of attached. So it's no wonder that Yin Kurama and Minato would become such close friends. Yin Kurama was stuck in 24/7 365 Hokage therapy for 17 years. I would be surprised if he didn't make progress. Now, back to Yang Kurama, who we'll just call Kurama from here on out. The tailed beast is placed inside of Naruto, the seal extra tight, and the lack of its natural chakra had weakened it to the point that it could barely even talk to Naruto. For many years, Kurama was silent. His weakness would dissipate, but he would remain quiet. A seal placed on him to keep him from talking as well. He was angered, ashamed. He refused to talk even if he could. The entire time, all that was on his mind were Madara, the other Madara, because Madara said it himself that anyone who believed and works towards the same goals as him was Madara, and Minato. He wished he could bring Minato back to life just to kill him all over again. He wished he could kill Madara too, but most of all, he wished he could come out and kill this useless child. The only solace he found was watching Naruto be abused by the rest of the village. The way they treated him, the way they excluded and persecuted him. It was the perfect circumstance to which Kurama could make his escape. All he needed to do was let it build and find a way to break the limit placed on him that kept him from talking. He watched the boy enter the academy all from behind his gilded cage. Naruto had no talent, no skill. It was almost shameful to think that this boy's father was the one to seal him up. Disgusting. Nonetheless, Kurama continued to feed him some chakra without the boy knowing, all in an effort to weaken the seal that had so far even restrained him from speaking. Even when the boy was told the truth by Mizuki before Naruto's graduation, he could not break free. Everyone feared he might, which is why he put the gag order out on it. And perhaps he could have if Naruto's emotional state hadn't been protected by that cursed shinobi Iruka. Kurama would continue to lay in wait as Naruto joined up with Team 7. During the bell test, Naruto showed all the fire his father once had, and now with that variant of the Shadow Clone Jutsu that he picked up from the scroll, he was starting to show signs of being the 4th Hokage's son. That was, in a way, bittersweet. Kurama hated both the Hokage and the boy with a passion, but he could at least feel better about himself if the vessel with which he was imprisoned was at least a powerful one. Of course, this didn't stop Naruto from being subject to his master's secret and ultimate technique, 1,000 Years of Death. That technique was so powerful that Kurama himself felt it for about a week. It wasn't until the mission to the Land of Waves that things started picking up. The tension, the fear. Naruto was attacked by the Demon Brothers and saved by Sasuke. The shame of that moment forced Naruto to cut the poison out of his hand with his own kunai, swearing upon the pain. Kakashi told him that they would need to wrap that up or he could die, but of course Kurama couldn't let that happen. As much as he hated the boy, he wouldn't let him die. He wouldn't suffer the same fate as Isobu had all those years before. The death of Naruto would mean the death of Kurama, and while Kurama would eventually regenerate, it was a viable way of escaping, but honestly, who wanted to die? Actually, come to think about it, if a tailed beast wanted to escape so badly as Kurama does, why don't they just get their host killed? I know dying sucks like that, but he would just regenerate a few years later as if nothing had ever happened and continue on with his immortal life. Well, I guess the only explanation is that it's just in a living creature's nature to fear death. But all of this paled in comparison to when Sasuke was nearly killed by Haku. Naruto grew full of rage and Kurama loved it. His unstable mental state gave rise to chakra growth and expenditure. Kurama would quickly flood his host with his own chakra, hoping that he would continue to use his chakra and degrade the seal as much as possible. Naruto used enough of the tailed beast's chakra to burst the mirrors. This was a win-win for Kurama. He'd been able to keep his host alive a little longer, and furthermore was able to weaken the seal by a bit by forcing more of his own chakra through it. This gave him everything he needed to make some space inside that cramped little cell. A little more influence, a little more freedom, and it didn't stop there. Naruto continued to make use of its chakra. When the Chunin exams began, Kurama found himself bored out of his mind until the Forest of Death, which was fun at first as his host continued to rely upon his chakra to survive. There was a small snafu though. This came in the form of Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. Kurama knew of him. This was due to his time inside of Kushina. He was present the entire time, every time Kushina met with Jiraiya. He had heard the stories about how Orochimaru had left the village behind, how he had done many evil things and become a threat to Konoha. Kurama didn't like Orochimaru, not one bit. He hoped Orochimaru killed everyone he came across, but also resented him for using other people as puppets and slaves. Much like Kurama, Orochimaru was being sealed into another, but the difference here was that Kurama was thrown into a cage, and Orochimaru was the one throwing people into cages. He aided Naruto in attempting to defeat Orochimaru, but the boy was a bumbling idiot that lacked basic combat competency, and instead was branded by the 5-element seal, which put an even tighter grip on Kurama's power, and even went so far as to limit Naruto's own. Naruto would continue on though, as if nothing even happened. He would fight in the preliminaries of the 3rd stage, and then finally he'd get his month off. Kurama, all during this time, is being completely suppressed. This threw a real monkey wrench into his plans. How was he supposed to break free if he couldn't even give his host any chakra? It was then that Jiraiya appeared and recognized the 5-element seal. Kurama was ecstatic when the old sage removed the seal from Naruto, giving back Kurama's progress. And furthermore, he was helping Naruto to make better use of this chakra. Things had suddenly taken a turn for the better. Eventually, Jiraiya, seeing the lack of progress that Naruto was making, would suddenly throw the child off a cliff, because that's just what uncles do, and Naruto then made his first contact with Kurama. Kurama was disturbed by the boy's presence, but also pleased, knowing that he now had the ability to talk with him. And if he could talk with Naruto, he could tempt him. He could play on his emotions, on the tension of the moment, offering an easy way out of a seemingly hopeless situation. In the end, he would make just enough deals with the boy to secure his own freedom, or so he had hoped. Right now, he just wanted to terrify and torment him. However, Naruto gained a strong demeanor in the face of the tailed beast. Despite Kurama declaring he would eat the boy, something he obviously wouldn't do, well, not until he escaped, Naruto took command and didn't ask for chakra from him. He demanded chakra from him. This was offensive to Kurama, but at the same time, the tailed beast knew that so long as Naruto felt like he was in control, he would not notice that Kurama was manipulating him towards his own ends. And so he relents and grants Naruto the chakra he asked for, and the boy summons Gamabunta. Gamabunta, of course, doesn't believe that Naruto could have done that, nor does he recognize the boy as his master. Naruto persists though, and the two fight until Naruto lands a single useless hit on his target before passing out on his back from exhaustion. Gamabunta, of course, accepts that Naruto summoned him, though he was confused. This never comes to Gamabunta's attention, as he did not know he wasn't summoned by just any boy. He was summoned by the Great Nine Tails at Naruto's beckoning, something which Kurama heeded only because it was in his best interests. After that, time passes, and Naruto returns to the Leaf to continue the Chunin exams. All the while, Kurama lies in wait for the moment Naruto needs more of his chakra, and Naruto indeed would use it when he was faced against Neji Hyuga. After Neji taps into his Tenketsu, Kurama flares his chakra to push Naruto to continue, allowing Naruto to eventually defeat Neji and move on to the finals. But that time wouldn't come. Kurama had sensed it ever since the Chunin exams had begun. He knew he was somewhere, and it was when Sasuke hurts Gaara that he comes out to play. As the Sand Shinobi flee with their little brother, and Naruto and the rest of the Team 7 follow him, Shukaku appears to aid Gaara in battle. But when that isn't enough, Gaara himself falls asleep, allowing Shukaku to escape and wreak havoc. Kurama was pleased to see the Sand Tanuki there. He knew that this would at least be an interesting battle. Kurama would aid his Jinchuriki, giving him enough chakra to keep him going throughout the battle. Naruto would summon Gamabunta and further use a transformation jutsu to turn Gamabunta into Kurama for a while. This was pleasing to Kurama. Though he couldn't be out to face his rival himself, he could face him via proxy, which was enough to satisfy him, especially when Naruto beat him. Though Kurama wouldn't show it, he was ecstatic, because even in this weakened and split state, the body of this weak child, Kurama was still better than that one-tailed Tanuki. Naruto did end up in the hospital in the end, but that didn't matter. Kurama had won, and he was proving all the same that his beliefs were true, that he himself was the strongest tailed beast of the 9. Kurama would use his chakra to aid Naruto's regeneration. Eventually though, Old Man Hiruzen, after being killed in the Konoha Crush attack, needed to be replaced, and Kurama's Jinchuriki was sent alongside Jiraiya to find a replacement, that being the other legendary Sannin, Tsunade. Kurama was quiet for the most part until the Akatsuki showed up to take Naruto by force. Kurama saw Itachi and knew his eyes, and began to feel incredible disdain for the Akatsuki member. He offers his chakra to Naruto without hesitation, but that chakra would be consumed by Kisame Hoshigaki's mystical blade, Samehada. Before they can do Naruto in, Sasuke makes an ass of himself and Jiraiya summons Toad Guts to give them room to escape. Kurama is disturbed by the fact that an Akatsuki member is after him, one with Sharingan. He had come to hate those eyes with a passion and was glad that the Uchiha were now all dead, but he lamented that Sasuke and now apparently this Itachi guy had survived. Every Sharingan was a reminder of those who had used him. He desired so badly to personally rip each and every one from their skulls and destroy them before killing their owners in the most painful and humiliating ways he could think of. Kurama would then need to aid Naruto in the battle against Orochimaru and Kabuto, offering more chakra to the boy until suddenly Naruto's heart muscles were severed, as were his chakra pathways. Naruto was dying, and Kurama's chakra couldn't reach the wound to heal it. That Kabuto fellow was a sly character. Slowly, Kurama was beginning to lose his own power, and slowly things were growing darker. Kurama was dying as well. Before either could perish though, Tsunade healed his muscles and chakra pathways. This would later lead to Kabuto's defeat as Naruto would strike him with a Rasengan. After this was settled, they would return with the new Hokage-to-be to Konoha. While there, Sasuke would defect, as I'm sure you remember. Naruto and many others would chase after him, and the benefactors of his escape, the sound 4+1. Naruto manages to bypass Kimimaro with the help of the newly recovered Rock Lee and the now reformed Gaara. Naruto manages to catch up with Sasuke in the Valley of the End. They fight, and the entire time Kurama is lending chakra to his host. To a point, he's pulling for Naruto, not just because the death of Naruto would be the death of Kurama, but because Kurama sees Naruto right now as a proxy. If Naruto, who has access to Kurama's power and loses, then it's the same as Kurama losing. Not to mention, he hates Sasuke and his cursed eyes. Sasuke lands a fatal blow on Naruto with his Chidori, but as soon as he removes it, Kurama gifts Naruto with enough chakra to completely close the wound in almost an instant. Naruto takes more of Kurama's chakra to continue the battle, much to the fox's delight. When Naruto was left unconscious from the battle though, Kurama himself would berate Naruto. This was shameful. Kurama couldn't stand this. He told Naruto that he was too weak. Then he gifts him an even greater amount of his chakra. This allows Naruto to tap into his version 1 tailed beast cloak, which gives Naruto the ability to fight on par with Sasuke. But in the end, Naruto is left unconscious and Sasuke escapes. Naruto is sent to the hospital, of course, and would later go on to train with Jiraiya, all while Kurama continues to brood over Naruto's loss to Sasuke. But he stays patient, remembering the true goal of this, to escape. During his 3 years of training, Kurama continues to aid Naruto with chakra, allowing him to master version 1 cloak up to 2 tails. But Kurama's big break comes in the form of Jiraiya's unshakable faith in his apprentice. Jiraiya uses Garatora to tweak the seal to allow greater chakra to flow through. This was just the moment Kurama had been waiting for. Kurama begins to whisper not-so-sweet nothings into his ears. He reminds Naruto of the failure he is, how he was unable to bring Sasuke back. He picks on him emotionally, dragging up all negative feelings and flooding him with his own chakra. This was in an attempt to violently break the seal. Naruto fights, but naturally Kurama's power is way beyond Naruto's experience, and Naruto begins to rampage. This leads to Jiraiya getting mortally wounded, but he is able to get close enough to reseal Kurama. The fox grows angry at this as his attempt to escape had been foiled, but there was no need to worry. Naruto would present him with plenty more opportunities to escape, and Kurama would take every one he saw. Naruto would continue his training under Jiraiya for about 2.5 years until returning to Konoha. Kurama is basically just taking a backseat ride right now. He attempts to tempt Naruto into taking his power, but it never works. So he seems to just lay back and wait. He's waiting for even the tiniest slip-up so that he can capitalize upon it. This would come in the form of Gaara's death. Naruto had been sent on a mission to rescue the Kazekage who had been captured by the Akatsuki. Of course, Kurama was concerned because the Akatsuki were specifically targeting tailed beasts at this time, and it seemed that Shukaku had fallen prey to these men in black and red robes. It's when Naruto witnesses the body of Gaara that he loses his temper. Ever since he had begun training with Jiraiya, Naruto's power had become more and more volatile. He had begun to lose control over the tailed beast's power every time he grew upset, and this was good for Kurama. This time, Naruto grows upset and Kurama throws as much chakra at that as possible. This causes Naruto to enter his two-tailed form to confront Deidara. For a while, Naruto raged until Kakashi put a chakra-suppressing tag on Naruto's forehead. Naruto was lucky, but Kurama was not. He could feel it. He was getting close to escaping, but every time he was taking control, someone or something always put him back into his place and locked the door again. But that was fine. Naruto would not always be surrounded by friends. Anything could happen during battle, and eventually, one of these days, Naruto would lose control and there would be no one around to stop him. And when it happened, Kurama would destroy that blasted village. Everything turned out well for Shukaku's Jinchuriki as one of the humans sacrificed her life to restore his. Beyond that, they also gained intel that would lead them to Sasuke's hidden location. This would lead to the confrontation on Tenchi Bridge. Naruto would face off against Orochimaru. Kurama would lend Naruto the power he needed for his version 1 cloak, but when this proved to be not enough, Kurama would creep in. He would tell him to take more of his chakra. Naruto would eventually give in, and he would enter his version 2 form to face off against Orochimaru. Just like always, Naruto had given Kurama an inch, and he took a whole mile. Kurama forced Naruto to go berserk, trying to use this as a catalyst to force a full break of the seal. And when he did manage to harm Orochimaru, Kurama's power was ultimately sealed again by Yamato, who possessed the same accursed wood release as the first Hokage. Kurama wondered where it had come from. Wood release was something only available to the Hashirama Senju. What horrible luck was this? Was this all really just coincidence, or was it the plans of that despicable Hokage that existed in the Hidden Leaf? Kurama's power was quelled, but that didn't help Naruto much as his body was left broken by the Nine-Tails chakra. It had been so powerful that his cells were killed off and then spontaneously regenerated. This also had the effect of shortening Naruto's lifespan, as a cell can generally only regenerate so many times before slowing down, which is the effect that makes a person appear old. Through Kurama's own power though, and Sakura's strength, Sakura, who had also been hurt, they pulled Naruto back from the edge and continued to attempt to complete the mission. Upon hearing what he had done to Sakura, Naruto resolved not to use the Nine-Tails power ever again. But never say never. Upon reaching Orochimaru's base, they find Sasuke. Kurama began to offer him more chakra. Naruto, on the other hand, began to deny him. Kurama grew angry. He was refusing to take his chakra? Naruto was finally catching on, which was not good. He began to insult Naruto, trying to play on his insecurities by reminding him that he was nothing without all the chakra he gave him. He then told Naruto that if he removed the seal, he would grant him all of his power. Naruto still refused though. Kurama was growing more and more agitated, but before this could escalate, Sasuke appears in Naruto's subconscious. Kurama is startled by this event, but he recognizes it as proof that Sasuke's grown. But that wasn't just it. Sasuke reminded him of Madara Uchiha. It wasn't just the skills though. Sasuke's very chakra reminded Kurama of Madara. For a moment, the tailed beast almost mistook him for Madara. An interesting feeling, and one that sent shivers down Kurama's spine. He hated this feeling. What was it that he was feeling? Was it fear? Was Kurama afraid of him? How could he be afraid of anyone? Sasuke then suppresses Kurama's chakra with his Sharingan, which causes Kurama to foam at the mouth and the hands, the legs, the chest, the spine. You know what? It just causes Kurama to foam at the everything. Sasuke's show of force once more shocks Kurama. And finally, he admits to himself that he's scared of this boy, but he isn't about to show it. He concludes to himself that this might be his final meeting with Sasuke. Kurama then issues a warning to Sasuke. If he kills Naruto, he will regret it. From here, Kurama mostly sits out of it. He doesn't really feel like becoming active again until Naruto is training to add wind style to his Rasengan. The frustration of failing causes some of the Nine-Tails chakra to leak out. Naruto would then have the Nine-Tails chakra suppressed by Yamato to keep him from transforming. Kurama further not only tries to take over Naruto, but further tries to hinder his progress, as after the death of Jiraiya, Naruto is sent to Mount Myoboku to train to learn Sage Mode. Here, Kurama finds himself very upset. He's in a jealous rage at Naruto for daring to use something as inferior as Sage Mode instead of his chakra. This isn't just upsetting because it reduces his dependency upon Kurama, thus removing any reason to borrow his chakra due to having another source from which to procure, but it also is insulting that he thinks he can just substitute it, that Naruto would prefer it. Of course, Kurama knows Naruto is likely doing this because he knows he can't trust Kurama as far as he can throw him, which admittedly isn't far, given that the Killer Kitsune is as big as a mountain. But still, Kurama can't help but feel jealous. He's so jealous, in fact, that he intentionally rejects Fukasaku, preventing him from fusing with Naruto as he had Jiraiya, making it impossible for the Toad to mold Senjutsu Chakra with him. Regardless of how much Kurama dislikes it, Naruto learns and begins to use Sage Mode. But still, when word comes that Konoha had been brought under attack by Pain, Kurama feels a little hopeful about this, knowing that if Sage Mode is not enough to stop the threat, where will Naruto turn to get his chakra boost? That's right, the big bad fox. Naruto would return. During this battle, Kurama waited patiently for his chance to sneak out. This moment came when Naruto witnessed what he believed to be the death of Hinata Hyuga. This resulted in him entering an unstable emotional state that allowed his Nine-Tails chakra to spill out. Kurama knew that this was his chance. He reached out and crushed the first Hokage's necklace that Naruto had been wearing that helped him suppress the Nine-Tails chakra. With this out of the way, Naruto slipped into his Six-Tailed version 2 cloak. From here, Kurama put his hands on the wheels and shoved Naruto into the back seat. He began to attack Pain with his incredible strength, power, and speed. This pushed Pain back. Pain knew that the only way to deal with this was to retreat out of the village and form a massive Chibaku Tensei. And so he began to lead the beast back out of the village, and once he was out, he formed a massive Chibaku Tensei that would trap Naruto. The miniature moon hovered in the air, and at its core was Kurama. Just as the Ten Tails rested at the core of the moon, or used to, Kurama was now resting at the center of this one. Within his heart, Kurama continued to sweet-talk Naruto, telling him to trust him and give him more control to take away all its pain. This caused the seal to slowly distort, and at this point it had grown so warped and weak that Kurama appeared to be pulling himself out of the Chibaku Tensei in an 8-tailed partial transformation. In an appearance like that of a zombie, Kurama erupted from the satellite in an attempt to further attack Pain. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, I want to experiment here and see what would happen if Minato didn't have the presence of mind to seal either his nor Kushina's chakra into Naruto as a baby. Let's see the end result of that. Kurama continues to tempt Naruto, promising to give him the strength to confront Pain. All of his pain, not just the being before him, to help him achieve peace. And almost as if in a trance, Naruto grabs the seal and removes it. Kurama would smile and tell him that he did good. He launches himself out towards Naruto, jaws wide open. I will end your pain. He consumes Naruto, and on the outside, that 8-tailed partial transformation slowly grows one final tail and begins to display skin and fur over its body. Kurama smiles and then suddenly lets out an ear-bursting roar to the heavens, proclaiming his victory over the leaf and their Jinchuriki. He looks down at the Diva Path. He uses his foot to crush it, and before he ends it, he thanks Pain for doing much of the hard work in eradicating the Hidden Leaf Village for him. He then eradicates the Diva Path. He would then raise his nose up into the air and look around, using his ability to sense negative emotions to locate Nagato's true body. He would then release a massive tailed beast ball at the papier-mâché tree where Nagato's real self was, eradicating both him and Konan at the same time. Kurama would then look at the wreckage and the remnants of the village where so many people looked on in fear. Before anyone could do anything, Kurama would charge up its tailed beast ball and eradicate what remained of the village. He would then make his escape into the wilderness. He'd find his temple and would sit there triumphantly, pleased with himself. He would just be trying to live his best life. However, one thing did claw at him. Whatever happened to the other tailed beasts? Elsewhere, the remaining 4 Kage meet in an attempt to find a way to deal with the Akatsuki. They're really beginning to understand the full power of them now, realizing they managed to destroy the entire Hidden Leaf. Now, the Akatsuki's plans are actually drawn to a screeching halt. Given that Kurama killed Nagato, not only ending his life but evaporating him, Madara's Rinnegan are both totally and entirely destroyed, and given that Naruto is dead, the chances that Sasuke would awaken his Rinnegan right now are next to none without someone being bonded with Hashirama's cells to awaken it. But let's just assume for a minute that it is possible. Given that Madara is dead and his Rinnegan destroyed, let's assume that Black Zetsu recognizes Sasuke as the reincarnation of Indra and decides to have Tobi manipulate Sasuke into developing the Rinnegan, and for the sake of some plot, let's say that Black Zetsu can do it much more efficiently than before, and can cause it to awaken immediately. Well, Sasuke's Rinnegan awaken, and he becomes heir to Madara's plan. With the Hidden Leaf already destroyed, Sasuke's goals of vengeance are satiated against Konoha, but would he really stop there? Nope. Sasuke believes that shinobi systems and villages should be changed to stop what happened to Itachi from ever happening again. Does that mean he'll try the Eye of the Moon plan? Well, Pain wasn't really planning to use that, so the plan really is just up to Obito. Or is it? Guess who wakes up next? Madara. Yeah, we forget that Kabuto used the impure reincarnation jutsu to revive so many different warriors, including Madara Uchiha. So while Sasuke won't follow that plan, he doesn't need to. Madara will make his own plans, and he'll also totally slaughter Sasuke afterwards because we all know that badass can. So given everything, they wouldn't bother with Kurama at the time and would awaken the Ten Tails. But Kurama senses this and knows that something's up. He rushes in that direction. Was it curiosity? Fear for humans? It was likely none of these things. It was likely just the call of something he used to be, hoping that Kurama will once more become a part of it. Now, of course, Kurama doesn't. For the sake of his own freedom, and the freedom of the other tailed beasts, he would join up with the allied shinobi forces. Madara would have Black Zetsu force Sasuke to use the Samsara of Heavenly Life technique to revive him, and as Sasuke lays there dying, Madara claims Sasuke's Rinnegan for himself, and uses it to become the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. Madara almost effortlessly eviscerates all of the allied shinobi forces, but he has an issue with Kurama. Now, you see, while Kurama himself tried to hinder Naruto from learning Sage Mode, that doesn't mean that Kurama wasn't paying attention, so in his time of need, I can see him using Sage Mode and attacking Madara. But you know what? I just don't see him winning. I see Kurama still getting pummeled. I know that he is the strongest of the tailed beasts, and that Sage Mode multiplies your power incredibly, surpassing any version 1 cloak, and rivaling even the version 2 cloak in some cases. I don't know if Kurama could win, because Naruto couldn't in this form. Madara has the power of 10-tailed beasts, including a bit of Kurama's chakra due to the Gold and Silver brothers, and besides, I'm pretty sure Madara naturally gets Sage Mode when in his 10 tails Jinchuriki form, especially since the God Tree's whole thing is absorbing natural energy and turning it into chakra. Kurama is surely strong, but he will not be enough alone to defeat Madara. He'll end up defeated, absorbed, and then turned into a part of the 10 tails. Now, of course, the moment Madara tries the infinite Tsukiyomi, he immediately gets carjacked by Black Zetsu, who decides to flip his house into something more Kaguya Otsutsuki-ish. She would put everyone to sleep and reclaim all of her chakra, turning all people on Earth into Zetsu to serve her. Tenari would be unable to do jack squat because, let's face it, him dropping the moon on Kaguya Majora's Mask style wasn't even enough to stop Naruto, and he probably wouldn't beat Kaguya in this form. Ishiki won't have any vessels with which to transfer to, and thus his power is stunted forever, unless he actually gets buddy-buddy with Kaguya or the next Otsutsuki to come to Earth. The next issue would be Momoshiki and Kinshiki. These two die immediately because I still don't like to think that Naruto alone is stronger than every tailed beast and human on Earth put together in an already OP godlike race, so Kaguya solos to me. But what do you think? Did you enjoy this? This was more of a retelling of Naruto through Kurama's eyes with a small what-if at the end. I didn't really think I could pull enough out of the what-if idea to make it super worth your while, so being the thrifty YouTuber I am, I made one incredible video just for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Like the video and give us a subscription to show your support for the channel, and ring that bell to be notified when we drop more content like this. Until then, peace.